So you can get going if you like.
Yeah, okay, so I'll call the meeting to order. This is the AD Gray Subcommittee for December 15th, 2020. There goes someone's phone. I can't see who is there, but I presume it's Jan Minzy, Bob Butler, both from the Select Board, myself, Saran Pine as chair, Bruce Metrick as co-chair or vice chair, and Ben Vale and Freeman Zausner. Mm-hmm. So are there any adjustments to the agenda? And I don't think there are any. The minutes, though, I think there are comments to the minutes, Max, because I think there's a typo at least, and under your minutes from December 1st, item number 3, it says Max sent 4 minutes.
4 meeting minutes. Do you want me to make that clarification?
Yeah, that'd be nice. Other than that, I don't know if anyone else had any other changes. I thought you put that in there, Max, just to be sure we read this. Were there any other changes to the minutes? I can't see none, but can I hear any? None. So is there a motion? Accept the minutes.
Bruce, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Okay.
Seconded.
Great. All in favor? Aye here.
Aye.
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 Okay. And then citizens' comments then, item number 4. I don't know, is there anyone there?
Saran, I'm here. It's Vicki Bell, School Street, a butter to AD Gray. I'm just here to see what is going on, and of course, everyone knows I'm in favor of a park there.
Is Vicki Bell, are you there in person?
I am.
Oh, nice. Great. And is anyone else, Max, present from the citizens, maybe via Zoom?
Tibby Cole should be attending via Zoom.
I'm here, guys. I'm no video, but I can hear and see you guys.
Okay.
This is Tibby, 61 School Street. Hi, Bruce. See if I can get my video. Oh, maybe now.
There you go.
Hi, guys.
So, Tibby Cole, do you have any comments, Tibby?
Just, very supportive of the park proposal, living right across the street. And again, I've said this a number of times in a number of different forums, but I'm not at all opposed to senior low-income housing. I just think that this space would be better used for other things, both for our lovely neighborhood and for the town. Just wanted to check in today and see where you guys were with things.
Well, this meeting, most of the meeting will be in executive session, and so not open to the public.
Okay,
but
thank you.
I don't know what we have under old business and new business, or comments from subcommittee members. I don't believe I've ever seen that item before. There being no other citizen comments, we'll move on to item number 5, which is old business. Do we have,
Saran,
yes?
Is there, because we have new people on, is there a chance to explain where we are in the process and just very quickly for the citizens and why we're going into executive session today, and then that the park proposal you made last week or the week before is separate from the work the committee's doing.
It is totally separate from this committee. You're right.
Right, and I sent a letter to the select board and the committee members saying that, boy, if I knew there was a park proposal, I might have voted differently. But we still have to proceed with the task at hand, and that's running to ground this Volunteers of America proposal. And that's what we're going to do in executive session, get into the details of that. And this is all, out there public in the record, so I'm not saying anything I didn't say in emails to people because I couldn't attend the meetings, but that perhaps there is a way to run both these processes in parallel. I don't know that that's the case, but just to see, so that we have a plan A and a plan B, and keep moving both along if that's possible, and then see where we end up.
I'm not sure that's really old business.
Yeah, I didn't know where to say it. I didn't know where to say it.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
I don't think that's old business. So do we have any other any business that's truly old business?
I think everything that
It's hard when I can't see everybody or anybody for that matter.
No.
But
No.
And then so we have new business.
I'll volunteer to ask people to give a thumbs up if they're okay, and then I'll tell you that everybody's okay.
Oh, great. So I'm curious. I want to see this item number 7. And we have had that before. I don't remember that. It's kind of interesting. So how is that? So is there new business to come before the committee? And I guess there's and comments from subcommittee members. I think under new business is what I should present to the committee, and that is that Bob Butler called me prior to this meeting and said that he had changed his mind as to whether I have a conflict of interest to be on this committee. And I think it's worth perhaps some discussion, but you all need to understand how I do feel about this. I am sorry, Bob, that you had not brought this up earlier, and I'm sure you are too. And I've thought about whether I should resign, and I think what I would like to do is, if it's possible, and if I have your support, although I don't need your support, is resign from the committee, and but continue to meet with the Recreation Committee and stay with them to pursue the idea of park, so long as that idea is alive, and I hope that I can bring it to fruition. But if the idea of a park should fall by the wayside for whatever reason, then I would hope that you all would welcome me back as a member, especially the select board members. I feel very strongly that what my experience in the past in terms of negotiating on real estate transactions would bring some good insight into the work that you need to do. And I also feel very strongly that I would like to be sure that the town gets the very best out of any transaction that it does, be it with Volunteers of America for this project or any other project, but in particular this project. So that is what I am telling you all right now. So if you have comments, that's great. But essentially, I am resigning. I don't know if there's a process. Jan and Bob, you'll probably be helpful to tell me so.
Well, I think a verbal resignation is appropriate under the circumstances. It's something we can certainly pass along to the select board. You're right, you don't need the select board to make a determination. You've made it. I do think it's appropriate, Saran, and I congratulate you on making the decision. And I sincerely hope that you will work with the Recreation Committee to explore the other option. It's intriguing. I don't think that the door is shut to that. I think there's a way down the road of getting it into the mix for people in town to look at and consider. So that's my 2 cents at this point. But there are definitely, I think there have developed conflicts now between the mandate this committee has, which is to put together an MOU with Volunteers of America. And that can be kind of contradictory to what you're doing with the park or a potential park. So I think you're making a good decision. And I think that going forward, you're really using your talents in the most appropriate manner to benefit the town. And I'm glad you're making a decision to stay with the Recreation Committee to work with them on the idea of a park.
Bob, why did you change your mind?
I think I changed my mind after the presentation Tuesday at the Select Board. I don't think I appreciated the potential for conflict that could arise and in fact has arisen now as a result of the presentation that was made on Tuesday. So
what conflict has arisen?
I think there's a conflict between negotiating in good faith, participating in the process of negotiating a memorandum of understanding with an entity that we've been working with since June, and then coming in with an entirely different proposal to suggest that something else be done. There's been talk about extending the timetable, delaying this process. I think that's a conflict that concerns me. And there are other elements I'd prefer not to bring up at this point.
Why is that?
Excuse me.
Why don't you want to bring them up at this point?
Excuse me, Bruce, if I could say to, if I could just add to what Bob is saying, it's also not necessarily whether there is an actual conflict, but it also has to do with the appearance of a conflict.
Correct.
And I think that is equally important.
Thank you.
I just don't like, I'll be very candid. I just don't like, well, there's other things that I'm thinking of, but I don't want to say them because I just have a problem with that. I mean, there's things that have gone on in the past in the town that we can't know. And it's like, okay, we can't talk about that. And I'd rather not talk about that. So we're going to set off a whole chain of rumors now. Because Saran's resigned.
Let's nip them in the bud, and I'll tell you what was on my mind, Bruce. I know that Saran has been actively out there fundraising for the park, and I think that's positive. But I think there are potential conflicts involved in that process, and that bothers me. So,
okay,
that's what I was concerned about.
That's fair. I just like to know,
fair
rather than I don't want to talk about it.
Fair enough.
So I think. Does anybody feel I should resign? Because I offered that up because I think I can run to ground with the MOU, keep them completely separate. Because to me, in my mind, they're competing deals. There's no guarantee that 3 years from now that VOA will go forward. It would be great if they did and it all succeeded. And that's why I suggested trying to run a parallel path to see if one falls by the wayside, we have a backup plan and not start over again. And at this point, if people don't feel that I can keep the issues separate, I've given my feedback to Julie on, just 2 points. And I don't know who else I talked to about on the committee and just the committee. But it's to make sure that the town gets the best deal. And I'm not going to say what they were because we're not in executive session. But the one point I raised, I think we raised I raised months and months ago with VOA, and they didn't like it. I could tell by the facial expressions, but that's fine. It's in the MOU now. So they may look at that and say, it's not a deal. We can't do it. So until we get to the point where we get that first MOU in front of them and a term sheet and see if there's even the starting point of a deal, I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. But again, that's my opinion. If you think I'm too far down the road, then I'd be glad to step aside too until one thing happens or the other. I'm not actively fundraising. I'm not. But when people talk to me about the ideas, I say, yeah, it's a shame that we didn't think about this sooner. It wasn't on the committee, or it wasn't. Would you like to do A, B, or C, and not just A or B? I don't have any, I don't think there's, as you used, a moral obligation to work just with them. And I don't feel that, you know, if they have to flip it over another year in the process, it's another year in the process. And I'm not going to say any more because those are comments we'll do in executive session specifically about the MOU. So I'm not going to obstruct it. I want to make sure it moves forward. But on those same, you know, the conditions that I put up, that they're going to have to agree to those, in my opinion, or I'm going to say that's not a good deal. So just anybody have any questions for me?
I have just a point of clarification. When you mentioned the MOU getting to them and that something's already in it, this is a working document as far as I understand. So the document that we have is not necessarily the document that will go to Volunteers of America.
That's correct. But, you know, until we get that MOU to them, we don't know if they're going to say, okay, whatever we agree on as a committee.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we haven't agreed on it yet.
Right, that's what we're doing today.
Right, okay.
Right.
That's what I thought.
And we laid out those process steps, right?
Mm-hmm.
I guess there's one.
And I reached out to the committee and the select board to say, is this the process we're following? Because I had a concern that there was going to be a vote on moving forward with this thing by the select board at the last meeting.
You did? Oh.
Yes, I did.
Oh, why would we move forward on something the committee hasn't completed yet?
Like you said, rumors, hearsay, you know, it got ahead of itself, rumors and stuff. And again, I go back to transparency, which 2-3 meetings ago, I didn't know this was even on the agenda because there have been issues of transparency brought up by citizens, and I think everything's been very transparent on the committee work. We don't want to get stones thrown. So I said, well, we're going to make sure we're very transparent. We follow the process and we all agree on it. Everybody said that.
Yeah.
So that's the only point I'm making. It was out there, just that, wow, you know, are they going to vote on it moving forward? I didn't know because of the way in executive session, Bob, you brought up points about, that we had to move forward with the letter of intent or the lease option, and the select board decided that, and that wasn't what the committee decided, and you weren't at that meeting. So there is a concern that, you know, we'll go step by step by step. I'm a stickler on process, as is Jan. And to me, that gave the appearance that, okay, the select board decided here's what we're going to do. And it took us an hour of the last 2-hour meeting to unwind that.
I have nothing to say, Bruce. I mean, it is what it is. I think
It's correct.
being entirely transparent, and the select board is entirely transparent. And clearly you have your views and I have mine. We're discussing an MOU now. Let's move on.
Why did it take us an hour at the last meeting to get off that point? Because you said the select board had decided this.
The select board had made a decision to go with an option agreement, a draft option agreement. That's right.
Without conferring back to the committee.
That's what the select board did.
But I think,
even though we didn't have the terms fleshed out along the committee. And so you see my point on transparency.
well, can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
I think that, and I've said this to, I think, everybody, including you, Bruce. I think what the select board was trying to do, and I can throw Abden a little bit under the bus about this, is you had brought up, Bruce, about the timing, and we need to move things along. And I think when we were discussing this with the select board, what occurred was, okay, so if maybe we don't really need that, we can just go ahead with the option agreement if that's the way they wanted to go. I think it was more of a time-saving measure. I don't think it was anything that was not transparent. It was, well, if we're going to deal with that in the option agreement and that's what is moving forward, why don't we just focus our attention on the option agreement? Bob brought that back at the last meeting. You guys were like, no, this is why. And then that's how we've proceeded since. So I don't think there's anything nefarious. I don't think it was meant to be offensive to anybody. And I've said this numerous times. I think it was somebody, I think it was an idea that was trying to be put forward so that we weren't taking everybody's time because you had brought up the time concern. And I think that's how that little nugget started. So I don't think it was anything that was other than having.
Julie, I agree with you. I agree with you, Julie, 100%. But what's obvious to me is nobody read the minutes or nobody described what the committee said at the select board meeting, because we laid out the plan in that meeting, and unfortunately, Bob wasn't there.
I'll take the hit for that one then. I'll take the hit.
Well,
but I think we need. I think we just need to get past. I mean, we obviously have the MOU before us to work on today.
Right.
And select board hasn't seen it. It was to go back to you guys. I took everybody's comments, and I thought we could have a nice discussion today. So that's where we're at.
Before
So back to the question.
excuse me, before
Are you okay with me staying on the committee?
Jeez. Someone was trying to say something.
I was trying to say something, but and that was, no one has commented on the second issue that I said, and that was, I will resign and work with the Recreation Committee, but in the event that the idea of a park is no longer valid for whatever reason, I would like to be welcomed back on the committee by especially Jan and Bob. And I just would like to hear from you both on that issue.
I have no problem with your coming back on, Saran, if what you're working to create doesn't come to fruition. I think you bring something positive and important to the meeting, and your experience and background can well be used, and that's why we put you on the committee to begin with. Mm-hmm. I don't know how Jan feels about it, but that's my feeling.
Well, I just thought it was unusual. I don't think that's a bad thing, but I thought it was unusual that it was attached to the resignation.
It's not.
Why?
It's not attached, Jan.
Oh, I thought Saran just said it was.
I didn't take it that way.
No.
Oh, okay. Okay, well then, I mean, that's certainly something we can look at. Is that something you want?
It's a select board decision. It's not something Jan and I can say now, but I would be positively disposed.
Oh, okay.
I would hope that Jan would be too, but it sounds like you're not, Jan.
No, it wasn't. It was just that I thought you were attaching that I will resign if I can come back on when. That's how I was looking at it.
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
That's
all right.
not.
Yeah, okay. That was my only question. I just wanted the clarification on that. And no, so I don't see an issue. I think when we talked on the phone last week before, and I did not know that your plan included taking the building down at that point, because we had discussed, and I'd mentioned to you, and you had agreed that these two projects were not mutually exclusive. And so I was surprised Sunday when I got the plans, and I don't know where they came from, the plans you brought to the meeting, that the building was
Stephen Moore drew up.
Right. That the building was going to be taken down. That I hadn't been given that information. And so I did think that they were not mutually exclusive, that would work together. So I hadn't had...
What I heard, Jan, was that the projects could proceed down the same path.
Well,
and then whichever one worked out. But I heard clearly at the select board meeting that the building would be demolished.
I was taught, yes, I did too. But in my phone conversation with Saran, we did not. That information was not given in that. And that's when I talked to Saran about the projects not being mutually exclusive, that it would not be a bad idea for having a place for people to live and next to a park. Yeah, that certainly would So
No, I'm confused on when you heard that then. 'Cause,
on the telephone with Saran.
okay,
Well, now you-
after the select
No,
board meeting?
prior
Okay.
to the meeting at the select board and prior to me seeing those plans. When I saw the
Okay.
plans, I saw that, but I was not aware of that until I saw those.
Well, now you understand it.
I do. And when you asked on the phone if I thought that you should resign on the chair, I did not think you should, because I didn't realize you were talking about having the building come down. Well, so now I agree with you. I think that was a wise decision.
Great. Okay. Well, then at this point, will turn the gavel over to Bruce, and I am going to leave the meeting if I can, to figure out how to do that.
I have
Yikes.
a question. When will the Recreation Committee meet?
I'm not sure. It says on the town's calendar that the Recreation Committee is meeting next week. However, in a conversation with Marcus, he told me the Committee is not meeting until January.
It's January because December, they haven't met through COVID yet. And Marcus is also going away for the holidays, and that's a conversation that the recreation director, if we're going to talk about recreation, should definitely be at that meeting.
Great. Okay. Well,
so that's why there's no December meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And we did talk to a couple of the people from the rec committee, and definitely January works better also for their schedules. And we are hopeful, this is a new thing, we are hopeful that the Zoom meetings are going to be easier, because with the grant money, Max $1 million, who's worth $1 billion, has procured a television screen for the back of the room so that people who are, when like select board or rec committee is meeting, you can see all the people, so it'll be a much better experience. So our technological advances will be getting better for just these things.
Okay, well, thank you to everyone for all of your hard work. And I hope I'll
Saran, for
see you at
taking part.
Yeah.
Thank you, Saran.
Thank you, Saran.
Okay.
Thanks.
All righty. Well, I guess I wasn't expecting that, but we'll move forward if that's okay with everybody. So let me back up a second then. So I can't see the agenda in front of me because I have my phone on to talk to you and I'm on the computer here. So what's the next item on are we done with item 7?
Well,
Citizens comment?
Bruce, you raised a question about whether you should stay on the committee. And my personal view is I have no problem at all, but having listened to you discuss your either enchantment with or disenchantment with the MOU that we eventually come up with, and deciding without even knowing what we come up with, that if you're against it, you're going to go out and speak out against the project. I'm wondering, are we going to have your good faith effort to come up with an agreement that we can all work towards and agree on, or are you going to be an obstructionist and just take a position that nobody can agree with you on, and then that allows you to walk away saying, well, I didn't agree with this process, I'm not going to support it?
No, I put that in the first email that, and Julie, copied as BCC, and said, it's good questions you're asking, so let me clarify. So I raised 2 points on the MOU to be put into the MOU, and then it came out, and I read it, and I told Julie, looks good to me. And those are my only 2 points. That's it. I'm not going to bring up any other points, and I would not be an obstructionist, but I'll hold firm on those 2 points, and because I think they're very, very valid to put the town in the best position for the next 20, 30 years. And those 2 points I brought up before the park idea came up. And I know in my mind I can compartmentalize things, but there has to be, if you're not comfortable with that, I understand it, because I won't be offended. The other point on process is I was assuming that, okay, we come up with a draft MOU that we want to submit to the select board. And so just like any committee work, we vote on it. And if it's unanimous, it goes that way. If it's not unanimous, fine, it goes. Let's just say it's how many people are on the committee now? 5. So if it comes out 3-2 or 4-1 for it, then that's fine, And I won't say if we're going to vote. I mean, I don't think we work like a jury until all 5 of us agree completely. We might have different opinions. We get to the point and say, well, we take a straw vote, and 3 out of 5 people are for it. The way it's written, then it goes forward like that. And then as part of the committee, I'll support that. Okay, and that's it. Now I can segregate that from my feelings on the park, and that's just a timing issue. But and so if you want to hold off making a decision about that until we go into executive session and talk through the MOU, and then you can see my tone and tenure in that, and then you can decide what you want to do.
I'm comfortable.
Yeah, because there's nothing that I brought up that wasn't brought up to VOA before the park idea came up.
Yeah, fair enough.
I am too. I think we should move on.
Yep.
Me too.
Okay. Any other items before we go into executive session? Tibby, or I forgot the other woman's name that's there. I'm sorry, citizen's name.
Vicky.
Do you have any comments?
I just have one, because I know you guys have been talking to VOA since June, but with the pandemic and everything, and I didn't get any written notice from the town that you were even discussing this. And also, there's new people that are living next to the school. We didn't know any of this until much later. I got one letter from the town saying that VOA was interested, and I came to the meeting right away. And after that, I paid attention, but, it's very nice that you guys have been discussing this since June, but we didn't know about this. So yeah, park seems like a last minute thing,
if I could,
but, you gave them quite a bit of time to put their proposal forward. I think you should actually give some of the residents the same amount of time. And also, I do worry about all the things that VOA said in meetings and then contradicted themselves. If I said, I'm worried about too many cars, they're like, nobody has a car. If I'm worried about people walking, they all suddenly have cars. So it's I feel like they say what we want to hear, but it's not always the same thing. So I do worry about that.
Tibby, let me address that, and then we'll see if Tibby has. So I think this issue came up before, and how can I say this? The meetings were announced in the Lincoln County News, and they're on the website. And I think there was also, for that first VOA meeting, their second VOA meeting, that was when they did their presentation in front of the select board. There were cards went out to the whole, to all of Waldoboro. And then anecdotally, people told me, because I feel people know who's on the committee, and I was approached the same questions, and I said, I'm sorry, here's what we did. Well, it should be in the Lincoln County. It was. I'm not trying to be defensive. It's just, I do this kind of stuff for a living, and it's just always seems that no matter how hard you try to get the word out, it just doesn't get out.
I do get that.
People said, "Well, I didn't get the card," and I think I talked to Julie about this. It's like, well, what do we do?
I think the best option would have been just a notice right on the building. We would have noticed that. 11 by 14, that would have been ideal. because,
That's a good idea. So people that were driving by or lived there would have seen it.
we
but
would have seen
the
it.
other,
My neighbor doesn't have Wi-Fi. He's not going to go online. He might not read the Lincoln County News. I mean, I read the
Right.
Lincoln County News, but
yeah.
even I didn't see it.
But, that's why it was mailed to everybody. Your idea is a good idea, and I guess I'll keep that in mind for next time I'm involved with something like this, for the town. But, I push back a little bit and say, okay, anybody that lived in the immediate area, those amount of citizens might have seen a public notice posted that nobody else in town would have seen it, because I don't walk by there. So I agree with you. It's just, I don't know how you get 100% coverage. I mean, I thought the mailing would have caught everybody. And then people said, well, they didn't get it. Okay. Julie, I don't know what else we could have done. I really don't. And I'm for full transparency, but it's, there's another idea we can think of next time. But short of a bullhorn going around town for a couple of days, I don't know what to do.
That is the age-old question in municipal government.
No, I get it. You can't reach everyone, but like I said, I'm also concerned about all the discrepancies in all their meetings of, percentages and things that they said. So, that does concern me.
So maybe Julie or Bob and Jan on the the more governmental side, maybe for the citizens, because I don't know the answer to this. So I'll make up what I think is going to happen, and then you tell me if this is correct on how the citizens will be involved. Or you should just say it. The MOU goes to VOA. There's a negotiation. VOA comes back and says, okay. And then what's the next step? At what point did the citizens have to vote on this at any point? I don't know the answer to that.
No. No.
The citizens do not have to vote. VOA has to sign it first. The select board votes, and the select board signs it second.
And then that's it. The citizens don't vote on it.
No.
Okay.
The actual sale, no, they don't.
But even the memorandum of understanding is simply submitted with a signature by VOA, and then it's voted on by the town as not as a binding agreement, but just that they say this is our negotiating position for the option.
When we all sign the memorandum of understanding, though, it's a public document. There's nothing secret about it.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
People will comment on it. They'll have their say on it in that regard. And if they do exercise an option in accordance with the memorandum of understanding, which is not legally binding, then that's another negotiation. But the option agreement itself will be fleshed out, and this committee will be having its input.
So to help out the citizens, so we get the right word out there in a positive way, when will the citizens, from a town perspective, when will the citizens get? What will they get to see, and when will they get to see it and give comment? I don't know the answer to that.
I think that's a matter for the select board to take up and decide.
Well, once any agreement is signed, right then, once there is action, that's when that becomes a public document.
And where do we
so
see that document?
Get to comment on that then?
It's that night, it'll be on for approval. So pick a night, any night, that they're adopting anything that needs to be a signed document. That goes before the board. There has to be an authorization to sign. And then that would be the time when people could comment on it. And typically that is included. So if we know that's coming up on a Tuesday for one of our meetings, that Thursday, it would be posted on the website as part of the agenda, and that's when people would review it.
Yep.
Okay.
Right.
So citizens, I can see some people's names, but the citizens that are on the Zoom here, does that satisfy you that you'll get a chance to review before the select board votes on it?
Hi, it's Tibby from School Street. So my understanding is you, the subcommittee, AD subcommittee, are drafting the memorandum of understanding. Is that the right term? MOU. So you draft it, and then it goes to the VOA, and if they sign, then we get to see it before it's signed off on by the select board or voted on by the select board. Is that correct?
So typically what would happen is the AD Gray Subcommittee would then say, here's what we would like you to consider. It goes to the select board. The select board reviews it. The select board could say, hey, Julie, this is all great, well and good, but we want our attorney to look at it. So it most likely would also be reviewed by our attorney. Then it is back before the select board after that, and then it goes to VOA, and I'm sure they'll have a review. Once they sign it, it comes back to the select board, and that is when it would go on an agenda to be approved.
I think I got that. So multiple steps. So I think
yeah, so that's why we were a little like, when people showed up, don't sign anything. I think that's how we were a little confused where that came from, because we're like, we're not even at that point yet. It hadn't even, the first iteration had just gone out to the AD Gray committee.
Oh, I think you actually sent us some sort of, AD Gray had given us a calendar of their intentions with the dates, and I think one of the dates was
I gotcha.
like December something, and it said letter of intent by December 5th, I think. So that information was from BOA.
Okay, so does that help? I won't say satisfy it, but does that help? Help with an understanding of the process from here on out. You folks can go and spread that word.
Somewhat, yes, it is helpful. Appreciate that. I think just to go back to Vicky's point about, as the newest neighbors in the village here next to the property, the AD Gray School. I don't have a problem with the transparency of what I'm observing of the board and your process. I think I'm just a little bit, hoping that there's enough time for us who are in favor of going in a different direction to see if there's other support out there. I know, Julie, the first meeting that I attended, I believe, when the VOA was present, you did tell me that, and I think we're trying to reassure me that the Tim Wells project, that there was enough neighborhood opposition that the select board decided not to pursue that. And I don't really quite know what the nature of that opposition was, other than I know we were really opposed to there being a third or fourth story here, but I didn't know there was much organized opposition. And I feel like now with this project, there is more of a growing sense of perhaps we could look at an alternative plan.
Yeah,
that's what I'm.
I think that just to be, this is, I'm speaking as the committee chair now, that this process has been, we've been given instructions and we volunteered to be on this committee by the select board. And so we have to march through that process. And so we're being as transparent as we can. And then when it goes into executive session, we have to do that by law. And then, so if people want to do something else like Saran does, then they're free to go ahead and pursue that. But that has to proceed on its own path. So I'm putting my feelings aside on what should or shouldn't happen, or what not should or shouldn't, what I'd like to happen or not like to happen. But this has been launched, and we have to follow it through, because it may or may not come to fruition. And what Saran's talking about may or may not come to fruition. And next week, somebody else could come in. And
if I can just comment too, I think we all have to remember, everybody has their people they talk to. And I sit in a unique position where I talk to everybody. And it is, you know, there have been, since the article came out and stuff, there has been a parade of people in here in support of the project also. So, you know, I think therein lies, you know, it's sometimes the people who come to me, and we hear in the town office, because we see people for various reasons who just say, hey, I read this and here's what I think. So I think everybody has to be very cognizant that there's a lot of opinions out there. And I think everybody has to respect everybody's opinions. And what I heard, and just to address sort of what Tibby had addressed about the prior project, was I don't think there was an organized effort within the neighborhood, but I think there were zoning issues with the third and fourth floors, and I think that overwhelming height of the building, we got a lot of comments from outside of the neighborhood also. So I don't know that there's any less people. I don't know how to explain what I'm trying to say, but I would say from outside of the neighborhood, there was definitely much more concern about the Tim Wells project versus this project. And I don't have a scientific meter on that, but I can just say from what we're hearing here in the office and what I'm hearing, the support for the VOA would be much greater than the support for the Tim Wells project at this point. So I don't know if that helps, Tibby, but that was part of my comments. Was I do think that just the sheer size of that project was definitely, I believe, from what my gathering from the neighborhood was, overwhelming to as far as size goes. And I got a lot more outside comments about that project.
To build on that, and because all of us have been on that committee for that, and I think Mr. Vail wasn't, but without going into the executive session parts of it, some of us were not satisfied that they couldn't come forward with the financial information and backers that we were looking for before proceeding. So I found that unsatisfactory. So it kind of just, we asked some tough questions and they couldn't answer, and it just kind of went away. That's the easiest way I can explain it. So to the other issue on process, though, is that, you know, you don't have to like it, but we outlined the steps that it goes through, and, you know, the select board got elected, and up the line people get elected, and then that's what happens. They vote and try to represent the majority of the people, and if people don't like that, then they elect new select board people next time. So I'm not trying to be a wise guy. I'm just saying that's, you know, there's all this government steps that go on that you really don't realize until you get involved in something in detail. And then you find out that, you know, when it comes to voting, that's it. A certain number of people vote and it goes one way or the other way, and everybody's not happy. So you know, you can't make everybody happy on it. So
I think it's time to move on, Bruce.
Any more questions? Okay. So are we ready to go into executive session?
I move we adjourn an executive session pursuant to 1 RSA 4056C to discuss existing proposals.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion so carried. So citizens, we're going to have to ask you to sign